Hey guys, Eric and JT here with Performance Golf, and in today's video we're talking about a little setup trick that can fix your early extension and make it really easy to rotate through the ball in the downswing. Now this is something JT showed me a couple of years ago that we've been working with players on. It's been working really good.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, to help fix that early extension. So we're going to show you what that is, kind of how to work through that, a couple of drills you can put into your own swing, take it on the course, ultimately hit the ball much better. JT, if I take a setup position here and we're looking at why players hit the ball well and why players struggle.
Yeah.
Certainly we see the players who hit the ball the poorest, the most inconsistent, typically in the downswing have some sort of losing posture.
Yeah, early extension, throwing out the angles.
No rotation.
No rotation at all. They look the same setup at impact. Yep.
They look the same at setup as they do at impact. That's good, okay.
Yeah.
Whereas the better players, they're certainly able to maintain their inclination to the ground with a whole bunch of body rotation.
Yes, for sure. They look way different from setup to impact.
Okay, so we kind of put like a pro at setup and a pro at impact. From down the line, you'd see, or face on, you'd see wildly different.
Yes.
But if we took players who were shooting a 90, 100 and above, they look pretty similar.
They look about the same. Yeah.
Very true. And when we look at that early extension, before we get to the setup in a minute, and why players do that, usually there's like one or two main reasons, right, when you guys are watching this. Either first, or A, the club is way out of position.
Yeah, way too steep, way too far out.
Face maybe too open.
Yeah.
And they're actually early extending to like help themselves.
Yeah, for sure. They'd be worse if they didn't.
But if their club's in a reasonable spot, let's kind of make that assumption.
Yeah.
The other big thing we see is, gosh, how they set up and how they move their hips in the early part of the backswing really dictates what they do on the way down.
Yes.
And so if we show them JT, in fact, let's switch spots. Let's have you come in here.
Perfect.
And let's start with like the bad version, hips too far back, too much anterior.
Yeah, for sure. So this would be the bad version. Not only just, these fancy terms called anterior and posterior, but just how far back my butt is. So you can see how far back.
Like butt line to your heel line?
Yeah, way over the back of my heels, and then almost, again, it feels like a hamstring stretch, anterior pelvis tilt. So this would be no good.
Yeah, this would be the bad we see all the time.
Yeah.
And then what would be, let's see like the good athletic posture we want.
Yeah, so good athletic posture would be much taller, pelvis much more tucked in, spine in a more relaxed position versus, again, everything really spread up, rib cage pointing up, chest pointing up. We want everything pointed down at the ball.
So when you do the good JT, it's like the butt line is much closer to the heel line. And then you're actually saying, hey, good posture is this being a little bit more rounded. And then, so the bad is like, hey, we're not trying to do like a deadlift or something.
Exactly. That would be the bad, where the arms get too far back, your arms get too short. That's why it's such a big deal. It's because most people, when they set up with their spine really extended, their arms get shorter, like a retraction. So guess what I'm going to start to do? Bend over more and more and more to get to the ball.
Ooh, that's good.
So it's really important that you start with your spine being rounded, so your arms are longer. Therefore, you can stand taller to the ball. So
the light bulb moment just happened there for some people.
Yeah.
And the whole point, JT, of like setting up like this, if we do the bad, let's do the bad version.
Yeah.
So hips too far back, probably weight in the heels.
Yep.
The whole point is if you're bent over, probably doesn't feel too good.
No.
If you're bent over like this at setup, there's only one place you're gonna go in swing. So if we go like up to the top and down, you're gonna stand up at some point.
For sure. Just because you can't move.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Your body's gonna counterbalance that and stand up. So I would say like, I don't know, 70–80% of players I bet we come across who struggle with early extension, if this is you, a lot of them have been trying to fix early extension for like a decade and haven't, solely because they get the setup incorrect with the hips too far back like that.
Yep.
Whereas if we have the hips under, good posture, that actually does what? That provides you ability to create some depth?
Yes, exactly. So essentially in the golf swing, the setup is going to be, as we said at the beginning, way different than impact. So if we kind of set up in the position that we want to be at impact, which is almost like bend over, turn this way, we're going to do the opposite at impact, right? So we're going to do this. So we want to set up as tall as we can to, again, be able to make some room for our body in the way down to get over into that bent position that we want at impact. So we're always trying to do sort of the opposite at setup to make room for impact.
Yeah, I think that's so good. And JT, let's flip spots there for a second again. And I know when you first showed me this, there's two parts. One, you said, hey, Eric, not only should you have the hips a little bit more under. And you actually gave me, was it like hugging a beach ball kind of feel?
Yes, hug a beach ball, yes.
So I'm a little bit more like I would be here versus I can't hug a beach ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So a little bit more here. And we're saying in the beginning, especially if you're coming from this butt back, very kind of, you know, athletic and other sports posture, it's gonna feel a little taller and almost like, you know, don't be shy about getting the butt line close to the heel line.
For sure, yeah.
Much more
completely
under.
tucked under, yeah.
And it might even feel like my hips are a little more level.
Yes.
Compared to normal.
Yep.
And JT, you said, hey, that's good to start with, but a lot of golfers, even if they set up fairly well,
yep,
will ruin that right away.
Yep.
And they push right back, like
Into
right
that.
there in the takeaway.
Yes, exactly.
And then we're like right back into step one.
Yeah, for sure. So a big part about the swing is when you do something in the swing. So we talk about a lot making sure we set up in this proper posture, feeling relaxed with our shoulders, our arms feeling long, our pelvis being tucked. And then what we want to do is we want to get into that position that we felt, you know, the poor position up near the top of the swing. That's kind of what allows us to get into a really good position at impact. So we want the butt to go more back near the top of the swing. We want the right leg to get more back. We just don't want to do that at the beginning of the swing. The early stages, that's what causes all the issues.
So the bad is like if I'm here and then I just push right back into it.
Yes.
Okay, I'm right back to step one. So you're actually saying, okay, when I do like the takeaway, I'm keeping the hips under.
Yes.
And I know, like, if you could hold that stick in front maybe, or
yeah.
club in front just for visual.
Yep.
One of the things I really liked you showed me is if this was like a wall here, I'm sort of keeping my hips pretty close to that, right?
Yes.
During the takeaway. And now from here to the top, I'm trying to get that right hip.
Yes, you're trying to make some room between the stick and your, exactly. And then you keep that room or increase it on the way down.
Okay, so I keep my hips under here.
Yep.
And then from takeaway to the top, create the depth.
Yes, create the depth.
And maybe even a little more, or at least keep it?
At least keep it on the way down, yes.
Okay.
And that's going to drastically change how you look at impact.
Let me hit one with that feel there, JT.
Yep.
So my hips are a little more under. I feel like my, kind of tuck my belt underneath me. Arms are a little longer. Fairly kind of relaxed with the arms, et cetera.
Yeah, fairly relaxed with the arms. Again, if you felt like shorter arms before, your arms are going to feel very long.
Okay. Keep my hips under in the takeaway and then create some space from there.
Yes. Yeah, super pure.
And I would, I mean, gosh, let's go
pure.
in the hole.
Yeah, so good.
It's interesting for me, who was a chronic early extender, and I use the term was loosely, right?
For sure.
That I spent a lot of time, and this is probably you if you're watching, thinking, hey, my butt's going too far into the ball during the downswing. So logically, to counteract that, why don't I just always kind of feel like it's back?
Yeah.
It's set up, backswing, downswing. And I could never do it.
Yes.
My butt always kicks in. When I'm doing this, to your point, where I'm more under, it's gonna feel like you're kind of a little sloppier with the posture. And my butt line starts under, to JT's point, I keep it under. I feel like my brain's definitely not gonna go more in this way.
Definitely not.
It's definitely gonna create some
space.
And JT, as I create space, like obviously as I'm hitting, when I make my downswing, if my hips are going into the ball, that would make rotation very difficult.
Yes, for sure, absolutely.
So part of this hip depth piece also gives us the ability to rotate through the ball.
Yes.
Easier. Those kind of go hand in hand?
Yep, and they're the opposite on backswing and downswing. So just how we talked about in your setup, we want to be a little bit taller in that setup. I can get in there and switch really quick, actually, Eric. So Eric, what I was saying was you have this taller setup here. It makes it really easy to create this room, and a simple way to think about it, I know we were talking a little bit about the takeaway, is just having your left arm parallel to the ground is where you want to feel where we're changing from this tuck position to this deeper position. And we
That's the timing.
That's the timing.
Okay.
And we're going to carry that deeper position all the way into impact. So essentially we stand tall. As the left arm gets parallel to the ground, we want to feel like we're always moving back until we hit the ball.
With the lower body.
With the lower body,
Okay.
exactly. So we're feeling this body, if anything, like we said, tucked under, taller with the upper body, left arm parallel, and then moving back into the ball, into impact. So again, you can see how much different we look from here to there. So that's such a big key for us, just using the left arm parallel position as a really easy reference point of when I need to start the process of getting farther back. Because just like you said, if I get in that farther back position right away, I'm just as, you know, in a bad position if I set up that way.
Yeah.
So left arm parallel is a really easy reference point for us to be able to understand, hey, once I get to this point, now I can have that feeling of my hips moving back, creating that space between myself and the ball. So again, that I can rotate much easier versus here as I'm hitting, don't have much ability to rotate. Yeah.
And I like that too, you know, the visual you should see of setup versus impact. Like if we put any good pro at setup versus impact, they look wildly different.
Yeah.
And that take home piece of, hey, when I'm gonna hit one more, JT, when the hips, as the hips get deeper, rotation gets easier. As the hips move forward, right, rotation is very difficult.
Yes.
So we're sort of putting those two together. Okay, one more here, JT.
Yep.
I almost should quit after that last one.
Yeah, that last one was so pure.
We're gonna go hips under, kind of a little bit more round. You're gonna definitely feel this way, like,
Yep.
oh, okay, I'm a little more rounded here.
Yep.
Hips are more under. Keep them under, feeling them under. Create the depth, create the depth. Let's try one more. Hips under, keep them under, create it, create it. Yeah, that feels so good for me.
Yeah, that is pure.
All right, so good, JT. It's funny, every time we do videos like this, I do the thing and I like instantly hit the ball better.
For sure, every time, get so pure.
All right, guys, so if you're struggling with the early extension like I do, you wanna have the better inclination to the ground, more rotation, ultimately hit the ball more solid and more consistently, do what JT showed us there. Get those hips a little bit more under. It's gonna really help you out on the course. JT, appreciate you as always, man. Appreciate you being here.
For sure, bro.
Appreciate you guys watching. If you like this, consider clicking that like button. Leave a comment down below with any questions. Appreciate the support.